Welcome to WatchYouWant.com. I'm Tim. Thanks for logging on. We have two special chronographs here with us today, both powered by the legendary Zenith El Primero movement, but hailing from two different houses, both of distinction. On the left, you can see an old favorite, the Rolex Daytona with the Zenith El Primero movement, doing business as the Rolex caliber 4030. In this case, we have a rare stainless steel example with so-called Patrizzi Dial. We'll get into what that means in just a minute. And on the right, you can see Zenith's own El Primero, in this case a Chronomaster in the 40mm Class T size. So let's talk a little bit about what these watches are, what they have in common, and how they're different. The Rolex was new for 1988. The Daytona finally became a 40mm case, gained something like a contemporary size to suit contemporary tastes, and in doing so it also gained a new movement. Rolex was looking to replace the old Valjoux 72 based movement that had powered the watch since its early 60s inception, and in 1984, as the mechanical watch renaissance was really taking hold, Zenith resumed production of its famed El Primero chronograph movement, which is the first fully integrated automatic chrono ever invented. Possibly more notable is the fact that it beats at 10 Hertz, so 10 vibrations per second. So if you listen to an El Primero, you'll hear it humming just a little faster than a standard watch. Rolex didn't want that. They thought that was a little bit avant-garde. They tuned the watch down to 28.8. But in doing so, they gained a measure of durability and added their own balance wheel with special microstella adjustment screws. So that really made the El Primero Rolex's own as far as they were concerned. And although the El Primero has proven to be extremely durable in all cases, Rolex has always been super conservative mechanically. They only want steam engineering, basically. They want something that would be railroad tough. They want something that is beyond a doubt. Zenith, on the other hand, was a little bit more adventurous, a little bit more progressive. In 1969, they were competing with a consortium of Hamilton, Heuer, and Breitling, and the Japanese concern Seiko, to develop that first automatic chronograph. And Zenith's entry was by far the most exotic of the three. There's that 10 Hertz escapement. There's that integrated design, whereas in a modular movement you have a movement with a module on top of that, and sometimes with an automatic winding module on the bottom of that. The El Primero was completely integrated, one plane of clockwork, very advanced for its day, also very reliable and very tough. So we have two similar hearts beating at different rates. 4 Hertz in the Rolex, 10 in the El Primero. Beyond that, though, what makes them special? Well, they're both special watches because of their origins, but this Rolex is a cut above. It features what's known as the Patrizzi Dial. Now you can see there are 3 subdial registers on the Rolex, and that they have almost a salmon or bronzed color to them. Well, the auction circuit expert and absolute Rolex authority, Osvaldo Patrizzi, decided that this was becoming a recognizable pattern on Daytonas of a certain age with a certain dial, and that patina, as the subdials begin to age and show sort of a bronze tone to them, that's become known on the black dial as the Patrizzi Dial. And in time, it's sort of taken on a life of its own, kind of like we have the Paul Newman dial. It has that celebrity association. Among connoisseurs of fine watches, a Patrizzi Dial has that same kind of cachet. And it's a fantastic watch. You may have heard the legend of the stainless steel Rolex Daytona, how they were unobtainable, how they commanded premiums over the precious metal, how there were waiting lists, how at best an authorized dealer might have one in the safe and then only for his best customers. Well, that mythos really grew out of this generation of Rolex Daytona. Today, the stainless steel Daytona is quite common. Production volumes have really increased since 2000, but they only made this model from 1988 to 1999. And the reason that the model is relatively scarce is because they were dependent on Zenith to produce the movements for them. Sure, Rolex modified it, but the basic movement, that was beyond Rolex's capability until 2000. So Zenith, being a small company, couldn't keep up with Rolex's production rates, so this Daytona always remained a rare bird, and the stainless steel version even more so. Add the Patrizzi Dial, now you're talking about a real collector's item. This is a special watch that we have available through WatchYouWant.com, and it's been pretty exciting to have this in-house. So for the sake of comparing and contrasting Rolex's take on the El Primero to Zenith's take on the El Primero, we have this little caliber 410 triple date with moon phase. Now, it's the rare El Primero that is chronometer rated. Zenith did not chronometer rate many of their watches. That certification process is relatively expensive, and for their purposes, it was reserved for top-of-the-line models, like the Chronomaster, which this is. Rolex chronometer certified every El Primero in the Daytona, but among Zeniths, this one's a rare breed. It's also rare because it's a very complicated chronograph. Every El Primero is an automatic chronograph, but this one is also a triple date. Now you can see that this one has apertures for the day, the date, and the month, as well as a moon phase at 6 o'clock. So that mass of information makes this a very versatile and very complicated watch. The movement has well over 300 pieces, and if you're a connoisseur of fine watchmaking, you'll be happy to know that it features a display caseback that gives full access to the works. You can see the column wheel, you can see the balance wheel, you can see the going train, you can see the chronograph drivetrain. Zenith in the early 2000s really did a great job of improving the quality of their movement finish, so this is quite a looker. With the naked eye or under a loupe, the Zenith Caliber 410 is a great looking movement. It's a real treat, and that's part of the pleasure of owning this watch. You get a complicated watch with an impeccable pedigree, a gorgeous case back, a movement that's actually worth examining and scrutinizing closely. With the Daytona, you get the legend of this motorsport stalwart, the watch that was trackside at the 24-hour events at Daytona Beach and the Circuit de la Sarthe in southern France, the 24 Hours of Le Mans. You get Paul Newman, you get Spa-Francorchamps, all of that. That, I want to call it almost romance, is kind of inherent in this watch. It's part of the legacy, and it's part of what you're buying into when you get a Daytona. You're getting a tremendous watch with tremendous substance and tremendous engineering, but you're also getting a little bit of a dream. And I think that Motorsports Association, after all, the winner of the 24 Hours of Daytona every year gets one of these for free. I think that's a special part of the Daytona ownership experience, and it really adds to the value, especially if you're a motorsports fan. If you're a connoisseur of fine watchmaking, you like to look at the inside of your watch, and you enjoy a little bit of history, I think the Zenith is probably the watch for you. Both of these watches come on bracelets, both of them are superb timepieces, both of them are chronometers, and both of them are basically cueing off of the same El Primero movement. But in their own ways, Zenith being a little bit more adventurous, Rolex being a little bit more conservative, Zenith being maybe a little bit more obscure, but perhaps that much more of a connoisseur's choice, Rolex being very much an article of pop culture. You can't go wrong with either one. You're either a Rolex or a Zenith, but either way, whatever your personality and whatever your preference in luxury watches, WatchYouWant.com has you covered with an option that's sure to please.